Konnichiwa lads, today I'm going to talk about our resident BDSM trio, the Furies, or Eumenides, as they should be called in polite company, which I'm assuming you are. They're an interesting mythological creation, and the mythology is actually a little bit different to the game, so stick around and maybe you'll learn something new. If you've got any interesting facts, share them in the comments below. As ever, if you're interested in lore, mythology or game guides, subscribe and hit the notification bell. If you find this interesting, give us a like and consider sharing it. So let's crack on with the Furies. We have 3, and in order of attractiveness, they are Alecto, Megaera, and Tisiphone. That's in game though, mind you. In reality, they were depicted as hideous demonic sisters, ugly, with serpentine hair, whips made of snakes, and snakes entwined on their waists and arms, so not really the ideal woman, if we're being honest. By the time of Euripides, the myth had evolved to the point where they had wings. The Furies were said to be born from the testicles of Uranus, upon his castration by the Titan Kronos, according to the Hesiod origin myth. The game, however, has used the later Latin version, espoused by Virgil in his Aeneid, that they are the daughters of Nyx, or the night. Alecto, whose name means ceaseless rage in ancient Greek, is the fury of moral crimes or passions committed against other humans. She often punished these sinners with madness, allowing them to fall completely into their passions and no longer think clearly. 2 clear examples would be Achilles and Kratos from the God of War games. Megaera, the second, whose name literally means the jealous one, is the fury of jealousy and envy. She had a particularly nasty rage for marital infidelity, oath-breaking, and heresy against the gods, so best not to 2-time her whilst calling Zeus a dickhead is my personal advice to you. Don't be banging Dusa and Megaera at the same time. Last, but certainly not least, we have Tisiphone, whose name in ancient Greek means vengeful destruction. As a fury, she was charged with punishing and castigating those kinslayers or murderers in the mortal realm. These Furies are all dripped with irony, guys. Their ironic origins being that they punish mortals for the same crimes that the gods commit. However, if you as a mortal were wronged, you could call on these Furies to aid you in your revenge, and they would respond with the same rage that Uranus felt at his betrayal by Kronos. This concept of a parent's curse upon his children destroys their mind and sanity, according to Herodotus. To be completely unloved and hated by your parent is bound to drive you mad. The Furies would not stop at just ravaging you though. They would ravage you as a criminal. They would then ravage your city or your country with plague, madness, famine and death. 4 things you really don't want, guys. Once you were killed in life, you were theirs for eternity. You'd have an eternal BDSM session in Tartarus, which personally, I'm not going to recommend. This imagery was so strong in Greek mythology that it appeared in Christian theology and Latin mythology, appearing notably in Dante's Divine Comedy, which is a piece of work I really like. The Furies served as a counteractive force to the Moirae, or the Fates as you may know, leading people down alternative futures of misery and suffering. With regards to their translation into the game, I do believe the spirit has been well replicated, but there have been quite a few massive changes. As we can see from poor Sisyphus' suffering though, they do administer their punishment to the shades native to Tartarus with the same enthusiasm and pleasure as they probably would have in Greek mythology, often only really being interrupted by Zagreus or by any stupid demigod that wanders down to Hades on some ridiculous divine task. I'm looking at you, Hercules. Now, the main difference between the mythology and the game is the fact that in-game they've been beautified to an extent, although I'm obviously not including Tisiphone, she's still ugly as sin. They've obviously been beautified to make them more appealing in terms of romance and in terms of actual character design. Although luckily Tisiphone's design has been preserved as what it would have been rendered as, disgusting, ugly and snake entwined, in order for the game developers to preserve some of the Greek mythology. They do use whips, as they did in Greek myth, however they lack the snakes, the vileness and the horror that they were meant to instill. Well, except for Tisiphone obviously. Tisiphone's still fucking terrifying. Alecto retains her role as the punisher of passions, or moral crimes, and this is explained well in the codex entry that you can read that's written by Achilles. Achilles is unquestionably afraid of her for his own cadre into passion. Alecto is depicted as beautiful, arguably more so than Megaera, and don't tell her that because she's the jealous one. But fortunately, Alecto retains her original desire to punish other people's passions, and specifically anger. She is particularly attracted to punishing Zagreus, as you can probably tell from your own dialogue. Zagreus, whose rage is palpable, is a key pleasure for her to punish. Ironically, Alecto as a boss herself gives in to her own rage in order to punish you. So there's a little bit of Greek irony there. Next we have Megaera, who is perhaps the one most significantly changed from the myth. Megaera is the punisher of envy, oath-breakers, and to an extent heresy against the gods. So don't two-time her, don't lie to her, and don't call Zeus a dickhead in front of her. Very, very strong words to live by, guys. She's given a beautiful appearance and a real depth to her personality and character. Megaera's personality, as is common in adaptations of Greek myth, is not defined by her role, as it would have been. And this is clearly demonstrated in the fact that she can be romanced, and she has a clear ongoing relationship with Zagreus that they share through their dialogues, and that we get a small glimpse into. Megaera is given the specific task of looking over Tartarus, something that was not necessarily the case in mythology, as they all shared the role in unison, defending the city of Dis, or Hades, together. Lastly, we have Tisiphone, punisher of murder, who herself is quite mad, as you can probably tell from the fact that all she can say is murder. This certainly is in keeping with her punishment. She often caused people to go into madness or bloodlust, and her ability to change the size of the dungeon and cast shadows is a reference to this mythological ability she had to drive people mad. Of the three, she is the most faithful rendition. She's single-minded, crazy, and determined to punish murderers and kinslayers, even though Zagreus hasn't actually murdered anyone yet, which is pretty funny. They together receive those judged by the three judges, or in the game Hades, which is slightly different. They then carted them off for eternal damnation in Tartarus or Asphodel. Usually they'd be together, but in-game it's explained away as, due to a war occurring in the mortal realm, Alecto and Tisiphone are absent, which wouldn't necessarily happen if you think about it, because the logistical nightmares of the gods not being able to move around quickly enough just because of one single war is quite daft. But this is used to explain their absence, and Thanatos' as well, so it's as good an explanation as any, guys. Megaera is described as first amongst them, whereas according to Bacchylides, the order should actually be Tisiphone, Megaera, and then Alecto. However, they are all equally terrifying in mythology, less so in-game, with mythology depicting them as carving off their own breasts in frustration and anticipation of punishing sinners, which is quite a disturbing thought when you think about it. I do think they've been translated well, guys, but I do think there's some depiction differences, obviously due to the theme, age rating, and the light-hearted nature of the game. And that's it, guys. That's all 3 Furies. As ever, smash that like button, let me know who you want me to do next, and subscribe for more. Ta-ra, lads.